So while Shadow looks at us disapprovingly with his tongue out, you are a special cat. Let us discuss. Looks so special. You really are. Let us discuss a panic index. So I've got other things I'm going to be talking about that'll make people all ticked. I'm going to be doing who I think are the best centers, wingers, defensemen, goaltenders in the league. That's coming soon. I noticed I didn't do that during the pause before the regular season was officially done, and then we had the return. So now, yeah, it's probably time to do a video on that and enjoy the fruits of my labors that day. That'll be quite the comment section. Always becomes who I hate and who I don't. So this is a video that I haven't done one of in a while, the panic index. So I thought there's a different way to do this. So I don't want to do it the same as I've done other ones. And it's not meant to be something that's overly serious. Like, it's not as serious as power rankings. It really isn't. So here's your fans that are pretty happy right now. Maybe the organization's happy. Maybe the players are happy. Here's where everything's in a full panic. Because everybody's going to die. Like we're talking full on Roland Emmerich movie that we're talking about here, like the 2010 movie and Day After Tomorrow. You know, the movies that don't make any sense at all from a science perspective and just make you want to punch yourself. That's where they're at. And then the fans that I think are perfectly fine with things not being great until next year. And then those that I think have a patience of maybe 2 years. And I think to put any fan base on here to go, well, 3 years from now, we'll start having pressure. Even in Detroit's case, I think 3 years might be a little bit extreme. So currently happy, currently panicked, not worried until next year, not worried until the year after that. So this does not mean that if the season starts in January, that I'm talking about, panic. I'm talking about it's going to be another year until there's a panic. So just to clear that up, everything clear as mud. All right, good. All right, so it's clear as mud. Anaheim, I'm going to say there's no real concern until next year. Now, I know they added Shattenkirk, and yet they haven't decided what to do with their backup goaltending. I haven't heard anything about Ryan Miller other than I can't see him playing anywhere other than Anaheim, and if Anaheim doesn't have him back, he probably retires. But I don't think there's a lot of panic right now with the Ducks fans. I think they realize, hey, so it's probably going to be another year outside the playoffs. No big concern. Arizona's tricky. Arizona, I will say that after last year, I'm not going to put them right up next to the screaming upset face here, but they're not far off. And I think if Arizona gets off to a slow start, considering their cap issues and financial and all that other wonderful stuff, I think there will be some tremendous concern. I think that they could get closer to this. Now, notice again, normally I have the head down towards the bottom, and it's a variance from here to here. I'm doing it a little differently today. So I'm saying that Arizona won't be as panicked as others, which is Boston. Boston, there's some panic. They lost Krug, Marchand, Pastrnak are hurt. There's still all kinds of questions of, is Tuukka Rask gonna end up sticking around? Is Tuukka Rask gonna be gone? What's gonna happen with Tuukka Rask? And nothing. I don't think anything's happening with Tuukka Rask. I think he's still Boston's goalie next season. But again, that's just how the whole media thing works. Buffalo, I'm going to say things are relatively happy with Buffalo. I'm not going to put them in the jubilant, everything's fantastic category yet. I think adding Taylor Hall, I think making the moves that they have, I think their fan base is going to be optimistic, which probably makes them feel kind of the opposite of shame. That thing. And it's kind of weird for Buffalo fans right now, but they do want to see some results. But I think things are pretty good for them. Calgary, it's really kind of all over the place. I'm not sure. I will say this: adding Markstrom, adding Tanev tells Flames fans that management knew that it wasn't necessarily good enough. What happened against Dallas, and they were so close to going up 3-1 on Dallas. And if they did, and if they won that series, who knows where we'd be right now? Maybe they bring back Talbot. Maybe they keep everything kind of the same. Find a way to keep Hamonic and Brody. But as it is, things change. And so for Calgary, I have them on the happy side of things. Because again, they've upgraded their goaltending. And I think Tanev's going to fit into their top four. But I don't have them as jubilantly happy yet. Carolina, I'll put them here. For Carolina, the excitement level should be high. This is a team that, when I get asked, so do you think Carolina has a chance? Yes. I think out of that congested Metro division, Carolina has a chance to surprise people this year, and they might just win something. And they might be able to get to a Stanley Cup final. It feels like they're long overdue. And the setback they had this year, as frustrating as that may have been, they generally are a team that struggles and fights their way back from that, and I would think that they'll do it again next year, because they don't usually lose in the first round, but they don't often make the playoffs in back-to-back years either. So this is whole different territory. But I love their defense. I think their offensive group is fantastic. Their goaltending is good, and I talked about how maybe they'd want to upgrade their goaltending. They seem comfortable with Mrazek and Reimer, and that could still work for them. Absolutely. Chicago, well, Chicago, it's tough because there are Chicago fans that understand that the time for that dynasty is over. There are fans who understand that they may need to go into some sort of a rebuild. And with the moves they've made, there are Hawks fans that aren't happy. I'll put them on the panic side of the board, but I'm not going to put them close to that panic. To me, there really isn't a whole lot of reason for panic, but at the same time, I don't see a lot of fans saying, "Oh, we'll just tank this year and next year we'll try to get better," or 2 years down the road. So again, and this is something I've talked about with Chicago before, they're just kind of stuck. They seem to be in a holding pattern. Colorado, Avs fans should be happy. They are happy. Their defense looks fantastic, and yes, they are now the odds-on favorite to win a Stanley Cup in 2021. One of the main reasons, if you're an Avs fan, that you might want to see a 2021 season is because they may very well win it. And, it might be a selfish reason, but it's not without its merit. Columbus, I think Columbus fans in general, pretty happy. I'll put them with Buffalo and Calgary. I don't see that there's any reason to necessarily panic with Columbus. And again, they lose in the first round, but they lost to Tampa. They gave Tampa a really good fight, and then Tampa went on and won the Stanley Cup. So that is something to hang your hat on. You beat Tampa once, then you lost them the second time around, but they knocked out Toronto. So there are some good things going on here, and as long as you got Tortorella, I think you've got a chance. Dallas, I'll put them on the happy side, but, for me with Dallas, there are parts they've lost from their Cup Finals run, and they're going to miss Corey Perry. And I didn't think I'd say that coming into the pause, because he wasn't really great for them. They still have Pavelski. They still have most of the pieces. But the other problem with Dallas has been that core. It feels like they need to refresh that core somewhat. I don't think they're done. I still think there's going to be trades that get made, but finding somebody to, if they decide to trade Radulov, who's going to take him, all that other wonderful stuff. So for Dallas, I think their fans are happy right now. They reached the Stanley Cup final, but I'm not going to say they're as excited as maybe some of the others for next season. Detroit. Well, I telegraphed that, didn't I? I think it's 2 more years before Yzerman feels any kind of pressure. I think that, the expectation is that they're going to get better this year, that they shouldn't be anywhere near as bad as they were this past season, but I don't think there's an expectation they're going to be fantastic. Edmonton, I'll put with Calgary. Yeah, I'll say the happiness is there, the excitement's there. The fans are, I think, excited for next season, and I do expect there to be kind of a congestion in the happiness realm right now, because again, during the offseason, every team can make an argument they could be a Stanley Cup contender next year. Every team can make that argument. There are a couple that might struggle to make that argument, but every team can say, hey, we haven't played yet, so sure, 2021 we can win the Cup. Florida. Florida, there's a lot of pressure, and do I qualify them as panicked? I think somewhat, yes. I know that Florida's made some changes, and maybe that fixes things, but if you're a Florida fan and you're not looking at this past couple of seasons and saying, we may have wasted an opportunity here, I don't know what to say, because it does feel like the Florida Panthers have kind of wasted an opportunity. So I'm going to put Florida on more of the panicked side than the happiness. You may be happy with where Florida is. I'm putting them on that side of things, though, because, again, They've missed the playoffs now twice in a row in years where it looked like they probably should have been there. And the way that the Islanders took them out in that play-in round, there are some concerns regarding that core. The Kings, I don't think the Kings have any pressure this year. I think the pressure starts next year. I do. I think the pressure for the Kings starts next year. And I think that we're going to see that pressure amp up a little bit this year. But again, it's not going to be that bad until next season. Minnesota. They lose Koivu, but they picked up a lot of players. Kaprizov's coming in. They picked up Rossi. I'm going to put them on the cautiously optimistic side here with Dallas. Dallas used to play in Minnesota. There's some reason to have them next to each other, right? So I'll put Minnesota there because they did make some good additions. I think there's still some reason for concern in net, but they picked up Talbot. We'll see what Talbot does for them. I think Talbot's numbers being better than Dubnyk's this past year should be a reason for some optimism, so I have them there. Montreal, there's general happiness in Montreal right now. There is, and it feels like there's some excitement that maybe this team's gonna actually get something done this year, and there's good reason for that. They've got solid goaltending now, both starter and backup. Their overall team makeup is pretty solid, and so yeah, I think the Montreal Canadiens and their fans, good reason for excitement for this coming season. Nashville, I think they're at this point in time, I think there is still some concern in Nashville. This was a team that spent to the cap. They didn't, the way that they lost against Arizona has to be concerning. There's definitely some concern going forward. David Poile drafting Askarov to me was a sign that Saros may very well be the starter, but not the projected starter for very long. That Askarov was just such an enticing package and piece that they decided to go in that direction. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this year. But again, I don't know that Nashville's done either. But right now, I can see there would be some reason for some concern in Nashville. New Jersey, I don't think New Jersey has a ton of overall pressure this coming season. I know that, there are a lot of young kids and there's some expectation to get better. I'm going to say the pressure isn't really that great, though, until next year. And I know you got Blackwood. I know you've got Heischer. You've got Hughes. Hughes will get better this coming season. And, you've got all these draft picks who've come in and now we're trying to get that young core together. I don't think there's a lot of pressure on New Jersey to be any kind of a contender this coming season. So I'll say it'll be next year we start seeing that pressure. Islander fans, there's some panic in Islanders fans right now because of the cap situation. The cap situation meaning that to keep Barzal and Pulock, you're probably going to have to sell off pieces if anybody's a taker. And I'm looking at Boychuk as that last piece will probably get sold off. If they can't sell off Boychuk, they'll have to look somewhere else. And so there's going to be some concern going forward with the Islanders until those contracts, those extensions are signed for Barzal and for Pulock. So, yeah, there's some concern there. Rangers, Rangers fans are excited for next season. So Rangers fans are excited to see next season happen as soon as possible. Let's get her done. Let's go. We got Lafreniere. We got Shesterkin in net. There's a lot of reason to look at the New York Rangers right now and say this is a team that could be set for ages. As long as they manage their cap properly going forward with these young kids when their contracts are up, this team could be dangerous for a very long time. And with Kakko, Lafreniere up front, Fox on the blue line, and Shesterkin and net there, and obviously all the other parts around that. Those are just the young parts of that team. And again, I'm not even mentioning all of them. Good reason to be excited. Ottawa, there's some pressure on Ottawa, but I don't think it comes really down on them until next year. I think next year, that's when we're going to start to see some real, pressure on the Ottawa Senators. I think this year, I think they're fine. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Philadelphia, I think there's still, some happiness in Philadelphia land. I'll put them with Minnesota and Dallas. Not as excited as some of the other fan bases may very well be. But for Philadelphia, they had a really good regular season. They were the number one seed, and then they just couldn't quite get it together when we got into the actual playoff rounds. But again, there should be some optimism. And they lost Niskanen, but they picked up Gustafsson, so we'll see how things go for them. Gostis Bear still being there is one thing that I do wonder how that's going to turn out. Pittsburgh's hard to really pin down. I don't think there's any panic with Penguins fans, so I'm going to put them down here. I don't think there is necessarily as much excitement or buzz around them as other teams, but I don't think there's any reason to panic yet, and I wouldn't put them as a team that there's no pressure on them for years to come, because when you've got Crosby and Malkin, there's still pressure. San Jose, San Jose management has this idea, I think, that they're going to be back in the hunt. I don't think that there's a lot of pressure in Sharks fans for them to exactly do that. And I'm going to put them under no pressure until next year. I'm going to, and I know people are going to say, hey, Doug Wilson could get fired. Yes, he could. But I think that in terms of the fans themselves and after what we saw this past year, if San Jose misses the playoffs again, I don't think it's going to be a big shock. So I'll put San Jose down as a team that there may not be any pressure on them until next year. And that may be because this coming draft, they pick up a good draft pick, and then maybe it's okay, so now we got this good young prospect coming in and these other guys, and maybe the pressure's on them next year. But while management, I think, envisions them being back in the playoffs, I think fans are realistic about it, I think. St. Louis, there's still no real pressure in St. Louis. But losing Pietrangelo, I think that's something that the Blues fans are probably ticked about. And so I'm not going to have them in the panic side of things. But also, they won the Cup last year. Now, remember, last year, I said they don't really care. At this point, they don't really care. Blues fans are fine. They don't care. I'll put them still on the happy side. I'll have them down here. Because now that it's been a year without a Stanley Cup, now you kind of want it back, don't you? Now it's like, well, we don't want to look like we're a one and done either. We don't want to look like we're a team that won a Stanley Cup and then people can write them off after as a fluke. So, no reason to panic, but also not necessarily as excited for this coming season. Krug's a good addition, but losing Pietrangelo, getting Krug, that changes the whole dynamic of that defense. Tampa, there's still happiness there. There's no pressure on them. They're not a 2021, 2022 team. There's no panic in their fandom. They have to go somewhere, so I'll put them down next to St. Louis because I think things are still pretty happy. I know there's panic regarding Sergachev and regarding Cirelli. However, they just won the Stanley Cup, so I'm not going to put their fan base as panicked right after they win a Stanley Cup. Toronto's always mildly alarmed, aren't they? Basically. And I know this is both fans and media, and sometimes it's the media that stirs that up. But, Toronto did look like they took a step back this year, and they lost the play-in round against Columbus. And so I think the amount of pressure on them is high. I'm going to do a power rankings at some point soon on which team has the most pressure going into next year, which will have a similar bearing on, or similar look to how this ends up. But Toronto has a ton of pressure, again. And it's whether it's media driven, whether it's media and fan driven, or it's just they have the largest fan base in the league, which they do, or whatever it is, the Toronto Maple Leafs will always have that pressure. And with guys like Matthews, Tavares, Nylander, Marner making the money they do, it's understandable that pressure's there. Vancouver fans, there's panic. And signing Schmidt seems to have taken away from it, but I'm still hearing it. And fire betting is still a thing. It's bizarre. It really is. It's really, really weird. But for Vancouver, the panic's there. Vegas, it depends on the day. So I'm going to put Vegas kind of out on their own. Because it depends on the day, it depends on the move. Pietrangelo, happiness. Losing Schmidt, kind of some panic. Leonard signs an extension, happiness. Leonard signs an extension, panic, because we might lose Fleury. It depends on the day, it depends on the hour. Vegas, it really does. The pressure on them to win a Stanley Cup is absolutely huge. So when I do the Cup pressure index, power rankings of which teams under the most pressure to win a Stanley Cup, Vegas is going to be near the top of that list because the pressure is huge right now. Adding Pietrangelo is being touted as that's that final piece. That's that final piece we need. That's it. We're good. We're going to win it. Now they got to go out and prove it. Capitals, I don't think there's a lot of panic with the Capitals yet, but I'll put them down here with Nashville and Chicago. Look, Ovechkin, right? Ovechkin. He's getting older. I'm trying to find a way to say it. That's why I'm stuttering around here. And so if you're going to win a championship with Ovi as a key piece, you kind of need to do it this year. Again, it feels like there's a little bit of a holding pattern, but they've gone to Samsonov and net, and that was the smart move. But there is, some discussion of whether or not, Lundqvist is going to be the backup, and how's that going to be different than with Holtby, and how are things going to be different. I think there's some concerns with the Caps that they fall back as well. So we'll see. Now, Winnipeg. Winnipeg's the last team. I'm going to go ahead and put Winnipeg right here next to the other two teams from the Prairies. Adding Stastny is huge. Down the middle, especially considering Brian Little won't play this coming year and may very well be done with his career. So adding Stastny is a huge addition for them. And in general, I think there's a good reason for optimism with Winnipeg. So there you go. There's your panic index as of October 15th of 2020. And again, this is not scientific. This is just where I think teams are at. And teams that don't have pressure until next year and teams that don't have pressure until 2 years from now. And the only team in that situation, as far as I'm concerned, is Detroit. I don't pre-plan this. I don't pre-plan where everybody's going to go on the board. And we'll see what ends up happening. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.